I stared at my cracked phone screen, watching the engagement post rack up likes. Emily's face was glowing, fake smiling next to Daniel, the guy she swore she'd never go back to. Jake sat across the room, tossing popcorn in his mouth. "Dude, you okay?" I didn't answer. My thumbs hovered over the screen. "Let me guess, you're still staring at it." "She said I was going nowhere," I muttered. "And now she's engaged to Prince Prada?" Jake scoffed. "Yeah, I saw. Doesn't mean you gotta torture yourself." I shook my head. "She didn't even flinch when she left." "You begged her, didn't you?" I looked up sharply. "You did." Jake sighed. "Man, I told you not to." "She stood in the doorway," I said, voice cracking. "Bag in her hand. Cold as ice." Jake got quiet. I said, "Please don't go." And she said, I swallowed. She said, "You're sweet, but you're not going anywhere. Daniel has a plan. You have dreams." Jake winced. "Damn." "She laughed when I cried, Jake." "Laughed? You serious?" I nodded. Then walked out, just like that. Jake stood up and grabbed a beer. "I never liked her. Not once." "You did at first?" "Because you loved her." I was trying to be supportive. Silence hung heavy between us. The only sound was the buzzing fridge. "She was everything to me, Jake," I whispered. "I was gonna propose." He paused mid-sip. "With what money?" "I was saving. You were broke." I still wanted to try. Jake sighed again and sat down beside me. "She didn't deserve that kind of loyalty." I laughed bitterly. "And now she's engaged to the guy who dumped her before me. Rich guy problems. He's probably got a yacht and a secret wife somewhere." I stared at the ring icon on the post. Over 15,000 likes. "She upgraded," I muttered. "No, she downgraded morally," Jake snapped. "You don't leave someone just because they're struggling. That's not love. That's opportunism." I couldn't sleep that night. "I remember. You didn't eat for days. She didn't call, didn't text, just vanished. She was gone before she walked out." I turned off my phone and let it drop to the couch. "You know what hurts most?" I asked. Jake leaned forward. "What?" She looked relieved, like letting me go was freedom. Jake narrowed his eyes. "Maybe it was, for both of you." I shook my head. I wasn't ready to be let go. I still believed in us. Jake leaned back and crossed his arms. "Let me ask you something." "What?" "If she called right now, said she made a mistake, would you take her back?" I didn't respond. That's what I thought. I rubbed my hands over my face. "I don't know who I am without her." "Good," Jake said. "Then it's time you find out." I looked at him. "You begged her once. You cry in the dark. But someday, man, she'll beg you. Just don't. Let it be too late for you to care." I gave a sad smile. "Right now, I just want to sleep without seeing her face." "You will. But first, delete that post." I hesitated. Jake pointed at my phone. "Delete it." I picked it up again, looked at her smile one more time and swiped left. "Blocked." Jake clapped once. "Progress." "I feel like crap." "You're supposed to. You just got gutted." We sat in silence. Then I whispered, "I don't ever want to beg again." Jake smiled. "Good. That's step one." "You can't keep hiding in here, man." Jake stood by the doorway, holding my jacket like it was a lifeline. "I'm not hiding. I'm thinking." "For 2 weeks straight?" I sighed. "I'm just tired." "Good. Then let's go. I got you a job interview." "What?" "Marketing firm. Small. You'll hate it less than starving." I looked at the ceiling. "I'm not ready to face people." Jake tossed the jacket on my lap. "Too bad. You need money, not therapy." That's how I ended up in a dull office, fake smiling through coffee runs and client emails. Then I met her, Sophie. Hey, I'm Sophie, she said, handing me a stapler I didn't ask for. I'm new, I figured. You look like you want to run. I do, she laughed. Don't worry, everyone does at first. She was nothing like Emily. No designer bags, no condescending tone, just soft eyes and calm energy. Still, I kept my distance. You're quiet, she said one afternoon. I prefer listening, or avoiding. I looked up from my screen. Maybe both. She smiled. Fair enough. We worked in silence for hours. No pressure, just peace. Later that week, Jake barged into my place waving his phone. Look, Emily posted another vacation. Photo with Daniel. Caption says upgrades only. I didn't look. You're not curious? No. He raised a brow. Since when? Since I realized silence hurts more than begging ever did. Jake grinned. Now, that's what I'm talking about. Sophie and I kept running into each other. Lunch breaks, elevator rides, random meetings. You always eat alone? She asked. I like quiet. You ever tried company? Not lately. She sat anyway. You don't talk much, huh? She said. I used to. What changed? I shrugged. People stopped listening. She didn't ask more, just chewed her salad and passed me a cookie. Every week, Emily's name came up in some story, modeling gig, travel vlog, engagement rumors. Each time I just stayed silent. She's flaunting him like a prize, Jake muttered. She always wanted eyes on her, I said. And what do you want? I thought about Sophie. Her quiet questions, her patient silence. Peace. Jake nodded. You're getting there. One late night, Sophie found me at the coffee machine. You look like you've seen ghosts, she said. I kind of have. Bad day? Just past stuff. You want to talk? No. She didn't move, didn't push, just stood beside me sipping her coffee. After a moment, she said, Silence is underrated. It says more than noise. I glanced at her. That's exactly how I feel. Then maybe we'll get along just fine. I never told her about Emily. I didn't need to. Sophie never pried. She just stayed. One day, she left a sticky note on my desk. Don't let the past mute your voice, but don't let it define it either. I stared at it for 10 minutes. Maybe silence wasn't weakness anymore. Maybe it was power. Bro, you seen Emily's latest post? Jake asked, sliding his phone across the table. No. She's in Greece, infinity pool. Daniel's feeding her strawberries or whatever. I kept typing. Cool. You're not even curious? I already know the script. Jake leaned back. The high life, huh? Luxury filters, branded happiness, empty captions. Meanwhile, we're splitting rent and microwaving leftovers. I smirked. At least I don't have to pretend. Late nights at the office became normal. Sophie and I stayed back working, on pitch decks no one asked for. You ever sleep? She asked, sipping her fourth coffee. Not really. Same. We worked in silence for a moment. She glanced at me. Why do you work like you're running from something? I looked at the screen. Because I am. She didn't press. She never did. One Saturday afternoon, I went to a small cafe near the office. Just needed air, coffee, quiet. The bell above the door jingled. I didn't look up. Hi? I froze. That voice. I turned Emily, hair curled perfectly, designer bag, oversized sunglasses, still stunning. Her eyes widened. I thought that was you. I stood slowly. Hey, she blinked. Wow, you look different. Yeah, you too. She smiled, tightly. I didn't know you came here. Started recently. She nodded. I used to love this place. Still do? I don't know. She glanced around. It feels smaller now. I sipped my coffee. Maybe you just got used to bigger things. She gave a soft laugh. Maybe. Silence. Then she said, How have you been? I looked, her dead in the eyes. Busy building, she blinked. Oh, didn't expect to see you here. I'm meeting Amanda. I glanced behind her. Amanda stood near the counter, arms crossed, watching. Emily followed my gaze. She thinks I messed up. I said nothing. She's probably right. I stayed silent. You're really not gonna ask about me? I already know. She tilted her head. You look good. Stronger. I am. She bit her lip. I guess I left too early. I gave a half smile. Yeah, you did. Amanda walked over and whispered, We should go. Emily hesitated. It was good seeing you. I nodded once. Take care. They walked out. Amanda looked back at me briefly. Her eyes said everything. Back at home, Jake looked up from the couch. You saw her, didn't you? Yep. How'd it go? She said I look stronger. Jake chuckled. She's not wrong. She also said she left too early. Jake grinned. Now that's the kind of karma I like. I lay awake that night staring at the ceiling. She had the cameras, the travel, the lifestyle. But I had something better. I had peace. You're seriously doing this? Jake asked, leaning against the kitchen counter. Yeah, I said, opening my laptop. Sophie and I have been working on the pitch all week. A content marketing startup? You barely market yourself. She handles the branding. I handle the back end. Jake raised an eyebrow. Is that code for something? I rolled my eyes. We're just working together, that's it. Sure, and I eat salad because I love vegetables. The first launch flopped. 0 traction. 2 clicks. 1 from me, 1 from Sophie. She stared at the numbers inside. We suck. Correction, we failed fast. She looked at me. Why are you smiling? Because this means we get to try again. Her smile slowly returned. You're weird. I've been called worse. We rebranded, restructured, and relaunched. The second time it clicked. Brands started reaching out. Clients gave feedback. Sophie danced around the office the day we signed our first retainer. You know what this means? She said. Free coffee. For life? She rolled her eyes. It means we're officially doing it. We? She blushed. Yes, we. Late nights turned into early mornings. Deadlines turned into milestones. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was growing. Jake noticed. You glow different now, he said one night. That girl got you smiling like you found gold. She's not like Emily. Clearly. She builds, not breaks. She listens. She stays. I nodded. She stays. One evening, Sophie looked up from her laptop. If this takes off, what happens to us? What do you mean? I mean, do we still stay small? I don't want big just to say it's big, I said. I want it to matter. She smiled. That's why it will. A week later, Jake walked in holding his phone like it was radioactive. You seen this? I took it. A headline read, Daniel under fire for fraud allegations. I blinked. Wow. Yeah. Mr. Perfect's image just cracked. I scrolled through the article, then handed it back. Not my business. Come on, man. A little smirk? I shook my head. That's not my lane anymore. Jake stared at me. You really changed. I had to. Later that night, Jake walked into my room again. You might want to know something else. What now? Emily asked Amanda about you. I paused. What? She texted her. Asked how you were doing. I looked away. She's watching now, huh? Jake grinned. Told you this day would come. I laughed, but it didn't feel like revenge. It felt like distance. I wasn't chasing anymore. I was building. Sophie walked into the office the next morning, holding 2 coffees. You look weird. I am weird. Okay. But like, extra weird. I smiled. Just thinking about how far we've come. She handed me the cup. We still have far to go. I'm ready. She looked at me and nodded slowly. So am I. I took a sip and whispered, "Thank you for staying." She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Her smile said everything. My phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Emily. "Hey, how are you? Can we talk?" I froze. Jake was across the room playing some loud video game. "You good?" he asked without looking up. "Yeah," I muttered. "Just got a message." "From who?" "No one important." He didn't push. I sat there, staring at her message like it was poison. "Can we talk?" "Talk about what?" "The way she left? How she laughed when I begged? How she's suddenly interested now that I'm not broken?" I locked the screen, then unlocked it again. I read the message 5 more times, and then I deleted it. Just like that. At the office the next morning, Sophie placed a coffee cup on my desk. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm fine." "You're quieter than usual." I looked at her. "You know, you don't ask too many questions." She smiled. "Only the ones that matter." I nodded. "Someone from my past tried to reach out last night." "Emily?" I blinked. "How'd you know?" "You had that look, half shocked, half annoyed." I laughed under my breath. "She texted me." Sophie sat down. "What did she say?" "Hey, how are you? Can we talk?" "That's it." She tilted her head. "And what did you say?" "Nothing. I deleted it." She didn't respond right away. Then she said softly, "If you ever want to talk about your past, I'm here." I stared at her for a second. "You're not bothered?" "Should I be?" "Most people would be." "I'm not most people." "You're really not." Later that day, I checked Emily's Instagram. Curiosity got the better of me. Her feed was different now, darker, no vacation shots, no Daniel, just sad quotes. Sometimes you don't realize what you had until it's gone. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. Regret keeps me awake. Jake walked by and glanced at my screen. "Yikes! She's in her poetic era." I turned off the phone. "She's spiraling." She left the light and now misses the warmth. Classic. She's human, Jake. And so are you. Doesn't mean you gotta let her back in. I'm not. Jake looked at me. "You sure?" I deleted it without replying. He raised his eyebrows. "Now that's cold." "It's clarity." That night, I sat next to Sophie at the shared desk we'd claimed as ours. She glanced at me. "Still, thinking about it?" "A little." "You regret not answering?" "No. I regret ever needing her approval." She didn't speak, just reached over and squeezed my hand. No drama, no jealousy, just quiet understanding. Sophie leaned back. "We've got that TV event next month, right?" "Yeah, the Innovation Spotlight thing." "You ready?" "Not even a little." She grinned. "Good. It'll keep you humble." "I'll probably trip on stage. Then I'll pretend not to know you." I laughed. "Thanks for the support." "Anytime." I stared at her for a moment. "You ever wonder if we would have met even if I hadn't been broken?" She tilted her head. "You think you were broken?" "I know I was." "Then maybe you had to break, so you could rebuild into someone I could meet." I smiled. "Now who's the poet?" "Blame your ex's Instagram." Jake came in as we were packing up. "You guys still working?" "We're bonding over existential crises," I said. Sophie laughed. "Want to join?" "I already live in one, thanks." He leaned against the door. "So, no reply to Emily?" "No reply." "Good. She's probably not used to silence." "Let her sit in it," Jake said. She made her bed. "I'm just glad I'm not in it." Sophie chuckled. "Amen to that." I looked at her, really looked at her, calm, real here, and I knew I had chosen right. "You're not going to believe this," Sophie said, bursting into the room. I looked up from my laptop. "Someone paid their invoice early?" She tossed a Paper onto my desk. We're getting an award, live TV, national coverage. I blinked. Wait, what? Innovation Spotlight. They picked our startup as one of the top 5 emerging brands. I stood slowly. This isn't a prank? She grinned. Check your email. It's real. I opened my inbox. There it was, formal, shiny, official. They want us to speak on stage, she said. My jaw dropped. We just got out of a co-working space. Now we're going prime time. Later that night, I was still pacing around the apartment. Jake peeked from the kitchen. Why are you wearing a button-up to wash dishes? We're going on TV. He grabbed a soda. We, Sophie and I. Our startup won an award. Jake whistled. Damn, look at you, Mr. Build from Broke. She's the one who got the invite. Yeah, but you helped her build it, I smiled. We built it together. He leaned on the counter. You better put a ring on it before she becomes famous and leaves you for some VC guy named Brad. I laughed. You think she'd say yes? I think she already has. The next morning, I met Sophie at the office. You okay? She asked, noticing the weird smile on my face. I am. You look suspiciously peaceful. I was thinking, she raised an eyebrow. About how this all started. A crash, a heartbreak, and then you, she blinked. That's a lot of thinking. I do that sometimes, she smiled. Only sometimes. I reached into my jacket pocket, fingers brushing a velvet box. Not yet. After work, I stopped by the jewelry store. The woman behind the counter smiled at me like she could read my whole story. Looking for something simple or dramatic? Something honest? She nodded and pulled out a small display. I pointed at a thin silver band with a single stone. Clean. Real. Just like Sophie. This one. She boxed it gently. You sure? I've never been more sure. Jake waited for me at home. You did it, didn't you? I held up the box. He let out a low whistle. Man, you're really gonna do this. Yeah. He clapped me on the back. She's gonna say yes. I hope so. She will, because you're not the same guy who begged. I nodded. No, I'm not. That night, I stood by my window, looking out at the quiet street. Emily used to talk about fame. Sophie never mentioned it. Emily chased attention. Sophie built meaning. I picked the right one, and now I was finally ready to close the old chapter. Relax, Jake said, adjusting my tie for the 5th time. You look like a CEO and a groom combined. Thanks. That's exactly the vibe I was going for, mildly terrified and overdressed. Sophie stepped into the dressing room holding a clipboard. You two done flirting? We go on in 10. I laughed nervously. You ready? She gave a soft smile. Are you? I nodded. More than I've ever been. She glanced at my pocket, the small velvet box still hidden. She didn't know. Not yet. The studio lights were blinding. The cameras zoomed in. The applause echoed. I could barely hear the host calling my name. And now, the co-founder of one of the fastest-growing startups this year. Let's welcome him. I walked onto the stage, heartbeat hammering against my chest. My palms were sweating. My mind was blank. I took the mic and smiled. Hi, I'm not great at speeches, the crowd chuckled. But I know how to say thank you. I scanned the audience. Jake, smiling like a proud brother. Sophie, standing behind me, confident, radiant. And then, my heart dropped. Emily, front row, wearing black, front, eyes locked on me. Why was she here? Amanda, she must have told her. Of course she did. I swallowed hard. Don't lose it, not now. I kept talking. This journey wasn't perfect. It started with failure, heartbreak, even begging. But somewhere, along the way, I stopped chasing people and started building something. The room got quiet. I want to thank my best friend Jake, who dragged me out of bed when I wanted to disappear. I want to thank every client who gave a nobody a shot. But most of all, I turned to Sophie. I want to thank the person who stayed, who never saw me as less, who never compared me to someone richer, someone louder, someone flashier. She saw me when I had nothing. Sophie's eyes widened, and I don't want to wait another minute. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the ring. A quiet gasp ran through the room. Sophie's hands went to her mouth. "Sophie," I said, "will you marry me?" Silence. 1 heartbeat. 2. Then she nodded, tears falling. "Yes! Yes!" The crowd erupted. Applause, cheers, cameras, flashing. The host clapping wildly. I slipped the ring on her finger, hands shaking. Sophie kissed my cheek and whispered, "You really did it." I had to. As we turned to face the crowd, my eyes flicked back toward the front row. Emily. She was sitting, still, one hand covering her mouth, her shoulders trembling. She was crying. For a second, everything slowed. That used to be the woman I begged to stay. Now she was just another face in the audience, watching someone else get the ending she walked. Away from backstage, Sophie held my hand tightly. "I still feel like I'm dreaming." "You're not. You planned this?" "Every second." Jake ran in, tackling me in a hug. "You savage! On live TV? You're legend!" I blacked out halfway through. Did I sound okay? "You sounded like a man who meant every word." Sophie looked at me. "And you meant it?" "Every word." She kissed me again, quick, sweet, full of everything I ever needed. Later, as we left the studio, Amanda was waiting outside. I raised an eyebrow. "You told her, didn't you?" She didn't deny it. "She asked if you were doing okay." I said she should see for herself. She did. Amanda's voice dropped. "She cried the whole time." I saw. "Do you regret doing it in front of her?" "No." Amanda looked relieved. "Good. She needed to see it. Not for revenge, for closure." Amanda nodded. She walked out thinking she'd won. And she did, for a while. But I built something better. Sophie joined me, slipping her hand into mine. Amanda smiled. "I like her," she said. "Way more than the last one." Sophie grinned. "Tell me all the terrible stories later." "Gladly." On the ride home, I leaned back in the seat. Sophie, beside me, ring sparkling under the streetlights. "I didn't know you were going to do that," she said softly. "I didn't know either, until I saw you on that stage. Until I realized I didn't want to build anything else without you." She rested her head on my shoulder. "Then let's build everything." I looked out the window, thinking about how far I'd come. From being told I was going nowhere, to standing on a stage with the right woman and the right kind of silence behind me. My phone buzzed again. I glanced at the screen. "Emily, I'm sorry. I made the biggest mistake of my life." Jake peeked over my shoulder. "Seriously, again?" I locked the screen. "Yeah," he exhaled. "She's really pushing it now." I guess watching me propose on live TV did something to her. Jake smirked. "Karma's working overtime this week." I sat beside Sophie on the couch that evening. We were curled up under a blanket, just quiet. I took a breath and handed her my phone. She messaged again. Sophie looked at the screen, then looked at me. "Are you okay?" "Yeah." "You gonna reply?" "No." She handed the phone back. "Didn't think you would." "She's too late." Sophie nodded slowly. She was too late the moment she left. I looked at her hand, my ring on her finger. "I never want to make you feel like an afterthought." "You don't," she said softly. "You never have." Jake knocked on the door, leaning in. "You guys decent?" Sophie laughed. "Sadly, yes." He stepped in holding 2 mugs. "I brought bribes, hot chocolate. No marshmallows because I'm not rich." I took one. "You see Emily's post today?" Jake grinned. "Oh yeah, black and white selfie, sad caption, something like, 'Timing is everything.'" And I blew mine. Sophie raised an eyebrow. "That's poetic." "Pain makes people artistic," Jake said, sipping. especially when karma writes the script. I looked down. You know, I don't even feel angry anymore. Jake nodded. That's the win, when you stop feeling anything. That night, as I lay in bed with Sophie asleep beside me, I unlocked my phone. I read Emily's message again. I'm sorry. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't feel the sting I expected, just silence. Peace. I tapped and held the message, deleted it. No second thoughts. Morning sunlight poured into the room. Sophie stirred beside me. You sleep okay? She asked. I slept. Fully. No dreams. No noise. Just sleep. She smiled. That's rare. I think I finally let go of something I didn't know I was still holding. She brushed my hand. With hers. Good. That space needed to be empty for better things. I kissed her forehead. It already is. At breakfast, Jake was scrolling through his phone again. So, is this officially closure? Can we throw a funeral for past you? I laughed. Yeah, that guy's gone. He begged. He broke. He blamed himself. He also got back up. Sophie raised her coffee. To the version of you who didn't. Crawl, but climbed. Jake lifted his glass. To the version of you she can't touch anymore. I looked at both of them. To the version of me who finally understands his worth. We clinked our cups. Later, I walked outside for some air. The wind felt different, light, freeing. I thought about how far I'd come. I didn't send a final message. I didn't make a speech. I just let her go. Sometimes karma doesn't scream. It whispers. You lost him. Dude, Jake said, spinning his phone around. You and Sophie are on literally every page. Twitter, Instagram, even LinkedIn. I looked up from my laptop. People really like live proposals, huh? He grinned. They like karma more. I laughed softly. I didn't do it for them. I know. That's what makes it hit harder. Sophie stepped into the office, waving her phone. You just hit 1 million views. I raised an eyebrow. You mean we? She smiled. Fine, we. But you looked better crying. I wasn't crying. Sure. Allergies on national television. Classic. I shook my head. You're unbelievable. And you're mine. A week passed. The hype didn't fade. Clients doubled. Emails poured in. But none of it mattered as much as the quiet I felt inside. Until that afternoon, Jake walked into my office. Hey, she's here. I looked up. Who? He didn't answer, just tilted his head toward the window. Emily, standing on the sidewalk. Pale. Alone. I stood slowly. Did she say what she wanted? She just said, please. I stepped outside. She looked up, eyes red, face hollow. I shouldn't be here, she whispered. But you are. I've been watching the show, the proposal, everything. Silence. I ruined everything, she said, voice cracking. I know that now. I didn't speak. She kept going. You didn't deserve what I did. I thought I was trading up. I didn't see what I was throwing away. Her hands trembled. Her eyes welled up again. I was selfish. I thought... I don't deserve anything. You could... Forgive me. I finally spoke. She was my shelter. Her lips parted. She whispered, I wish I stayed. I looked at her. Really looked. You didn't, I said. And that made all the difference. Her knees buckled slightly. I didn't offer comfort. Not out of cruelty, just clarity, because this wasn't my burden anymore. I turned away, walked back toward the door, back to my life. She didn't follow. She couldn't. Not anymore.